I've never been the jealous type. I thought I knew my wife, Lisa, pretty well. We met in college, got married right out of school, and for years everything seemed fine, routine, comfortable. She was a bit bitchy sometimes, sure, but that was just her attitude, right? I never thought much about it. We had a good life, I thought. I worked, she worked. We traveled a little, had a nice house. But over the last year or so, I started noticing little things that didn't quite add up. She'd stay late at work more often than usual, claiming she was finishing up projects or meeting with her thesis advisor, Dr. Mark Evans. Lisa was finishing her doctorate in literature, something she'd been working on for years, and Dr. Evans was her advisor. I actually liked him at first. He was a decent guy, slightly older, kind of charming in a nerdy way. I even hosted them both for dinner a few times, and Lisa would gush about how much he helped her with her dissertation. She thanked him on the acknowledgement page, called him her deep personal guide, which I thought was kind of weird, but okay, maybe she was just close to her advisor. I'd never suspected anything unusual about their relationship until I started noticing her phone more, hiding texts, and becoming defensive when I'd ask about her evenings. The first real sign that something was off came when I found her phone one night. I was cleaning up the living room, and she left her phone on the coffee table. I scrolled through it out of curiosity, and there were messages. Not just academic stuff, but flirtatious, suggestive texts from Dr. Evans. My stomach dropped. I read things like "can't wait to see you tonight," and "let's make this session even more productive," with little emojis. I couldn't believe it. My wife, the woman I loved, was cheating on me with her academic mentor, right under my nose while I was hosting them for dinner. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. I kept reading, and the messages got more explicit. There were plans to meet up outside of her usual academic meetings and even pictures. I didn't recognize the location, but based on her replies, she was clearly hiding something. I was furious, confused, and hurt all at once. How could Lisa lie so easily? She always told me she loved me, that she was committed. And here she was screwing her advisor, who she claimed was just helping her with her thesis. I couldn't believe I let this go on so long without noticing. That night I couldn't sleep. I replayed every argument, every time she was defensive about her phone. I thought about all those late nights she said she was working, but instead she was probably with him. I decided I had to confront her, but I didn't want to do it right away. I needed to gather myself first to figure out how to approach her without losing my mind. I started digging deeper, looking for more evidence, more proof that this was real. I couldn't believe I was living through this. I had no idea how to process it, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. The next day I couldn't focus at work. My mind kept circling back to that damn phone, those messages, the images I saw late at night. I felt betrayed and humiliated, like I'd been played for a fool. I started thinking about all the times Lisa was bitchy, how she'd snap at me for the tiniest things, and now I realized it was probably just her way of hiding the guilt, or maybe even her own feelings of shame. I hadn't noticed how cold she'd become lately, how she'd brush me off when I tried to get close. I was an idiot for not seeing it sooner. That evening, I decided I had enough. I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I waited until she came home from her study session, and then I sat her down in the living room. I was trembling, but I managed to keep my voice steady. I told her I knew about the messages about her affair with Dr. Evans. Her face blanked for a second, then she rolled her eyes and spat out, "Oh, please, it's not a big deal. You're overreacting as usual." That's when I lost my temper. I yelled at her, told her I'd been patient for too long and that I knew she was lying. Her reaction was infuriating. She laughed at me like I was some kind of joke. "You think I'm messing around with my thesis advisor? Please. He's just helping me with my dissertation. You're so paranoid and insecure. Maybe if you weren't so boring and predictable, I wouldn't have looked elsewhere." I could feel my blood boiling. I told her I saw the messages, that she was cheating on me, and that I wasn't going to sit around and be humiliated anymore. She rolled her eyes again, getting even bitchier. "You're crazy. If you think I'd do something that stupid, then maybe you're right. I don't want to be with someone as insecure as you." That was the moment I realized she was just trying to gaslight me, to deny everything to avoid taking responsibility. I demanded she tell me the truth. She shrugged and said, "Fine, maybe I did see him a few times, but it's nothing serious. Just sex, maybe. I don't see what the big deal is." That's when I felt my world tilt even further. Sex, with her advisor, while I'd been hosting dinner parties and she was supposedly working on her thesis. How stupid had I been to believe this was just academic? It was so clear she was just throwing me away, making me look like a fool. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I just stood there stunned. I couldn't breathe. My mind was racing. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a cliff ready to fall. I told her I needed some space, that I couldn't live like this, that I deserved better. She just smirked and said, "Whatever, you'll get over it. You always do." That moment, I realized I was dealing with someone who had no remorse, no shame. She'd lied to me straight to my face, and she was still trying to make me doubt myself. I didn't know what I was feeling anymore: anger, sadness, betrayal. They all mixed up into one big ball of despair. But deep down, I knew I had to figure out what my next step was. I couldn't keep going like this, not with her. Not with a woman who could cheat so easily and then lie about it like it was nothing. After that night, everything changed. I knew I couldn't keep living in denial, but I also didn't want to jump into anything rash. Still, I couldn't ignore the fact that Lisa was lying and cheating. Her words, her actions, everything pointed to a betrayal I didn't think I'd ever face. The worst part was how she dismissed it, like I was overreacting or imagining things. She had this way of twisting everything, calling me paranoid, insecure, stupid, just to make herself look innocent. But I saw through her bullshit now. For days, I kept quiet, trying to piece everything together. I started secretly digging through her emails and texts, looking for more proof, more dirt. I also kept an eye on her schedule, trying to catch her in the act. It was exhausting, feeling like I was walking on thin ice all the time. I was so mad at myself for not noticing sooner. How did I miss all the signs? She was so bitchy, so quick to dismiss my concerns. I realized I'd been blind, maybe even complicit, by ignoring the clues because I didn't want to face the reality. But now, there was no denying it. One afternoon, I came back early from work. I was planning to confront her again, but I decided to check her phone one more time just to be sure. I knew it was wrong, invading her privacy, but I couldn't help myself. I found more messages, more explicit, more intimate, between her and Dr. Evans. They were talking about meeting up, about keeping this between us, and how they should be careful. I read enough to feel my stomach turn again. That's when I saw a picture she sent him, her in the bedroom, half-dressed, with a caption that said, "Can't wait to see you tonight." That was the final nail in the coffin. I was furious. I clenched my fists so tight I thought I'd break something. I knew I had to do something, but I didn't want to just confront her anymore. I wanted to get revenge. I wanted her to feel what I was feeling, to see how much she'd hurt me. I started planning, not just to expose her, but to make her regret it. I wanted her to know I wasn't some fool she could lie to. I was going to make her pay for this betrayal. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd come prepared. I wanted to catch her red-handed, maybe even record her confessing. I didn't want to just walk away and forget. It wasn't that simple anymore. That night I waited until she was out of the house, supposedly at her study group. But I knew better. I set up my phone and a small camera, hiding them where I could get a good view of her. I knew she'd be sneaking out to meet him. I wanted proof, real proof, so I could finally put an end to her lies. I was shaking with anticipation, but also with a strange sense of relief. I was finally taking control, doing something that felt right after all the hurt she'd caused me. I stared at the recordings later that night, feeling a twisted mix of satisfaction and heartbreak. The images and voice recordings confirmed everything. I had her. I had all the proof I needed. I was ready to face her. I didn't know what I'd say, but I knew I couldn't keep pretending anymore. The betrayal was too raw, too deep. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't scared about what would happen next, but I was also angry, angry at her for doing this, angry at myself for trusting her, and more than anything, I was tired of feeling like I was the only one left holding this relationship together. I knew I had to decide soon, confront her with the proof and see where that took us, or walk away entirely. Either way, I was done being naive. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My head was pounding and my stomach was in knots. I kept replaying everything, her sneaking out, the messages, the pictures. I had the evidence now, and I knew I couldn't keep pretending I didn't know. I made myself a strong coffee, sat in the kitchen, and stared at my phone. My mind was racing with options. Confront her immediately, wait until she got home, or maybe just leave everything and walk away. But deep down, I knew I had to face her head on. When Lisa finally came home that afternoon, she looked annoyed, like she'd been forced into some kind of obligation. She was bitchy as always, snapping at me when I asked how her day was and brushing off my questions about her study group. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her, waiting for the right moment. When she went to the bathroom, I pulled out the recordings and pictures I'd captured the night before. My hands were trembling, but I knew I had to do this. I waited until she came back. Then I looked her straight in the eyes and slid my phone across the table. "Lisa, I have something to show you," I said calmly but firmly. She looked at the screen, her eyes narrowing as she realized what I was about to reveal. I pressed play, and her face went pale as she watched herself sneaking out to meet Dr. Evans. The video was clear, her in the car, her entering his house, their flirtatious texts, her sending that damn picture. I saw the moment she realized she'd been caught. Her reaction was nothing like I expected. Instead of denying or trying to lie her way out, she looked annoyed, almost irritated. "Seriously, you're spying on me now," she snapped, crossing her arms. I took a deep breath and said, "No, Lisa, I'm showing you what I've known for days. You've been cheating on me with your advisor, and I have all the proof." Her face twisted into a sneer. "Oh, so now I'm a cheater? You're crazy. You think I'd risk everything for some stupid affair? You're delusional." I shook my head, feeling a mix of rage and sadness. "Do lie to me? I saw the messages. I saw the pictures. You've been lying this whole time, and I've had enough. I want to know everything, why, how, and what the hell you're trying to do." Her eyes narrowed further and she scoffed. "You really think I'd do something that stupid? You're imagining things as usual. You're paranoid, insecure, and frankly, you're a terrible husband if you think I'd cheat on you with some old guy just because he helps me with my stupid thesis." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Her lies were so blatant, her tone so dismissive. It was like she didn't even care that I knew the truth. My chest heaved with anger. "Don't play stupid with me, Lisa. I saw the sex, the photos, the plans you made. Tell me the truth. Are you sleeping with him? Are you screwing around behind my back?" She rolled her eyes and looked away, muttering, "Fine, maybe I did see him a few times. Maybe we did fuck. But it's not like it means anything, it's just sex." That's when I felt everything inside me snap. The betrayal, the hurt, the humiliation, all crashing down. At once, I felt tears prick my eyes, but I fought them back. I was furious now, at her, at myself, at the whole damn situation. I told her she could stop the bullshit, that I wasn't playing her game anymore. I said I never wanted to see her again, that I was done pretending. Her face was blank, like she was already planning her next lie, trying to brush it off like it was nothing. I got up, told her she could take whatever she wanted and leave. I didn't want to hear her bullshit anymore. As she grabbed her purse and stormed out, I realized that my life had changed forever. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, she was gone. And I was left with this crushing emptiness, realizing I'd been blind to what was really going on all along. I didn't know what was worse, the betrayal itself, or knowing that she'd lied straight to my face, making me feel like I was the crazy one. I just stood there, staring after her, feeling like I'd lost everything that mattered. After she left, I was just sitting there in my own house, feeling like I'd been hit by a freight train. The silence was deafening. I stayed frozen for what felt like hours, trying to process what had just happened. My mind kept circling back to all the signs I ignored, all the times she snapped at me or brushed me off, and how I thought she was just being bitchy, when really she was hiding this entire double life. I felt completely betrayed, humiliated, and angry. Mostly angry at myself for being so blind, but also furious at her for doing this to us. I was angry at her lack of remorse, the way she dismissed everything like it was no big deal. That was what cut the deepest, the sheer indifference she showed, like I was some fool she could just manipulate and walk all over. I'd always thought she was a strong, confident woman, but in that moment I saw her for what she really was. someone who could lie and cheat without a second thought. It was a shock, and honestly, I felt like I might break apart. But I also knew I had to get a grip. I couldn't just melt down and let her win this. I started thinking about what I was going to do next. Part of me wanted to confront her again, to tell her I knew everything and demand she come clean. But I knew that wouldn't work. She'd probably just lie more or try to gaslight me again. So I decided I'd do something different. I needed space, time to think, and most importantly, I needed to figure out how to protect myself from her lies. I started drafting a plan, one that would give me clarity, maybe even some leverage. That night I stayed up, meticulously outlining everything I knew, organizing the evidence and preparing for what was coming next. I knew I couldn't just walk away with a simple "we're done." No, I wanted to make sure she understood the gravity of what she'd done. I wanted her to see that I wasn't some fool she could walk all over. I'd never been the vindictive type, but I also knew I couldn't let her think she'd gotten away with it. No way. If I was going to do this, I had to do it right. In the days that followed, I contacted a lawyer. I wasn't sure if I wanted to divorce her or just make her face the consequences of her actions, but I knew I had to get legal advice. I kept my distance from her, refusing to pick up her calls or texts. I felt a strange mix of relief and dread, relief that I finally knew the truth, and dread about what the future held. I couldn't believe I was even here in this mess because of her. She'd betrayed me in the worst way possible, and now I was left to pick up the pieces. All I could do was hope that somehow I'd come out of this stronger. But for now, I was just trying to survive the fallout, one day at a time. Looking back now, I realize how much that betrayal changed me. The trust I once had in her is gone, replaced by a bitter cynicism I never thought I'd develop. I still think about those nights, about how I was so blind to what was happening right under my nose. It's a brutal lesson about how people can hide their true selves behind a mask, even someone you think you know so well. But I also learned something crucial. I can survive this. I will survive this. I moved out of the house soon after, not because I wanted to punish her, but because I couldn't stand living in the same space where her lies had been hidden. I found a small apartment, a quiet place where I could breathe again. The first few months were the hardest. I'd wake up feeling empty, haunted by memories of who I thought she was and the reality of what she actually did. I went through all the stages: anger, sadness, disbelief, and finally, acceptance. I realized I deserved better than a woman who could lie and cheat so effortlessly. Since then, I've focused on rebuilding myself. I've gone back to therapy, which helped me process everything and understand that I'm not at fault for her actions. I learned to put boundaries around my trust and to recognize the signs of toxicity earlier. It's a lonely road, but it's also a liberating one. I've come to see that sometimes the only way forward is to cut out what's toxic, even if it means losing someone you loved. If I could give anyone advice from my experience, it would be this: trust is fragile and so is love. Never ignore your gut feelings, and don't be afraid to stand up for yourself when you feel something's wrong. People can hide their true nature behind pretty words and false promises, but the truth has a way of coming out. And when it does, you need to be ready to face it, whatever it might be. Because in the end, the most important thing is taking care of yourself. You can't control what others do, but you can control how you respond. So here I am, stronger than I was before. It's not the ending I wanted, but it's the one I needed. I've learned that betrayal can break you, but it can also build you back up, if you let it. And I'm choosing to move forward, wiser and more cautious, knowing now that the people we trust the most can sometimes be the ones who hurt us the deepest. Life goes on, and so will I.